Hello! So hi, this is Icy Null, the hacking channel where you learn how to dox yourself. Yeah, I'll have to take the VOD down and clip the first bit of this video off because I forgot I have my display showing and I was blasting all the PII all over the web. So we'll have to sort that out in post, but that's easy enough to do. Not at all that I'm streaming to 2 different destinations. I'm gonna have to do a whole lot of cleanup to fix that. Not at all. Anyway, hi, hello. Today's gonna be a little short because I really just want to answer a question a viewer had that I hopefully tagged correctly in this video. Basically, what's happening is VS Code is pretty. It's a big beast, okay? There's a lot of things it does, and its onboarding, particularly for blind screenReader users, could be better. There have been a whole bunch of changes over the last year, mostly to do with the dreaded AI, of course, but a number of things have been added that supposedly make the editor better for accessibility. And a person asked me, hey, how would you best set up VS Code for a non-visual, a screenReader workflow? So we're gonna try to dig into that a little bit today. Like it's difficult to do a whole entire thing because everyone works differently, but there's certainly a number of things we can look into, and this could also be a really good video for people who constantly ask me how I find the code button on the keyboard. You know, it's important to have an answer for that question ready. So we're gonna try to look into that a little bit today. And just see, you know, how we do. The rhythm of the code, Visual Studio Code, is a thing that has, of course, been accessible for a very long time. Finally, turn the music off. We don't need it anymore. We don't want to distract people with fancy, cool beats. Stop! Okay, Visual Studio Code has been accessible for quite some time, obviously. Yours truly even has a little bit of a counsel role, I guess, in that effort when it first started out. Back in, when was that, 2017 or so? Yeah, somewhere at that line. And I was delighted to see it go from essentially being completely inaccessible to where it is now. But it can be quite overwhelming. There's a lot of things going on, even when you just open it up for the first time. I'll show you that in a second. So what I have done is I've essentially just started a new instance of Visual Studio Code. And we're just going to look at the first time experience and how you would set it up, I think, at least in my opinion, for efficient screenReader based workflows. So let me put the window capture with the Visual Studio Code on screen, and let's just see if we can go through it. Why is that so hard to say today? I don't know. I've been doing like 3 projects at once today with working on 2 video games and working on an adaptation for the Elgato Stream Deck to make it accessible, because the Elgato sure as fuck's not gonna. So, I'm a little frazzled, a little frizzle-dazzled. I need to get it with the program, as it were. See, also flashing your entire display for like half a minute. Anyway, window capture. We need Visual Studio Code, so we'll just set that up. Let's see, not any application, just capture specific window. Oh, okay, that already does that. Where are you? Code. Boom. And of course, now I'm no longer visible, so I'll need to move this down. You can just do it like this, right? Yes. To even I learn new hotkeys sometimes in OBS. You can hit Control down arrow to move a source down in the priority list, so it shifts out of the way for your camera if you need that to happen. Now you know. I'll fit it to screen just in case. I'm pretty sure it would already be like that, but might as well just do it. Okay. This is essentially what you see when you first start a Visual Studio Code. Audio descript. Let me first see if it's visible. Is it? Can we see it? Can we vision? Yes, we can. Okay, so we have a get started with Visual Studio Code screen up right now. I have in front of me, let's have a look here real quick. Oh shit, the Restream bot isn't running. I'm totally with it. Oh yeah, that's cool. Twitch now officially allows for, did I not turn Firebot on? Fuck, I'm lazy today. Sorry, chat. I was wondering why it was so quiet. Twitch has stepped back on their ruling that you're not allowed to combine viewer chats if you're streaming to multiple destinations. I was doing that anyway because it's really the only accessible way of doing it currently. But you were not technically supposed to have like a ticker with both chats going at the same time. I have been doing that for like, well, quite some time and never got caught, but I do believe people did get in hot water about this several times. So it's good that that's being walked back as we speak. I saw a super quick video about it yesterday on YouTube. So yeah, that's good. I'm glad that that's been solved. I'm fixing chat as we speak. Right now I can't see chat. Honestly, the amount of work I did in the last 3 minutes, like 7 o'clock and then 3 minutes past 7 when I started going live. I should record my pre-stream like preparations at some point because they go very fast. Like if someone is always wondering like if a blind person can operate a computer, I should show them that because it is legit. Like I bump between so many different things. It's kind of insane. Okay, I can see you a lot now. Chat's fixed, so that's good. Who do we have? We have Josh. Okay, no, got a couple people. Very nice. Let's see. Hello, like everyone. If you chatted and I didn't respond, I didn't see it. So feel free to repeat your message if you want to. Back to VS Code. Where is it? Where'd it go? Where did it go? Oh, for some reason it's all the way here now. Okay, yeah, that's fair. The first thing I think that's good to be aware of in VS Code is that it can do a lot of things, but you don't necessarily always want it to do a bunch of different things. Like it can be a terminal, it can be a code editor, it can be a hex editor, it can be all sorts of interesting things. And through being able to do all that, it can also be really overwhelming. Like people don't really know what they want to do with it and where they want to take it. And that is one of the main complaints I often hear is that it's just, there's so much happening all at once. Something is just coming at you that they don't really know where to start. Did it outright die on us? I think it may have. Oh, no, there it is. Okay, found it. Right now we have a number of things open. We have a chat view, like you can talk to an AI, of course. We have, let me move the speech over. Game, and we'll...
Walkthrough. Set up VS Code. Visual Studio Code window. Walkthrough. Set up VS Code. Visual Studio Code document. Menu button. Left sub menu section. Open section target filter. Variant voice American English. Volume 100. Inflation 30. Div 65. Rate off. Rate 70. Rate 60. Rate 40.
Now, the first thing you're going to want to try to do is stay in your focus mode as much as you can with your screen reader. Like you don't generally need browse mode for most things. Visual Studio is a web app for all intents and purposes. It is a Chrome-based web app. So you're going to have the opportunity to go into browse mode. And sometimes you're going to want to do that, particularly in like accessible views. We'll get to that in a second. But as a whole, in your general, like using the regular people features of the... Sorry, I shouldn't say that. The non-accessibility features of the editor, you're not going to want to jump into browse mode unless you have no other choice. Let me turn those announcements off there. The reason I say that is because a lot of hotkeys expect you to be in focus mode. For example, the first we're going to look at is the F6 hotkey.
Status bar.
Which allows you to jump from one important part of the UI to another. You can go to status bar,
active view switcher tab control,
to the
Explorer,
view switcher,
CTRL
which has like
tab
the sidebar basically. You got the
manage tool, active view.
The fact that they apparently broke it in some respects because you cannot F6 away from here. Very cool.
Clickable chat input, agent, edit files in your workspace.
So what I said about staying in browse mode, yeah, I just
no next edit field, no previous edit.
Got
chat input,
stuck
agent,
in
edit.
the sidebar, so that's probably a bug they need to fix.
Status bar.
So yeah, you can get to the status bar, you can get from the editor to the thing, but you can't get
manage toolbar.
So once you're there,
main landmark. Tab control. Walkthrough. Chat input. Agent. Edit files in your workspace.
Yeah, you have to tab away from the view switcher for some reason to get F6 to work again. That's a omission. That's a bug.
Status bar.
They'll need to fix that. And Shift F6 takes you the other direction.
Chat input. Agent. Edit
So
files
we
in
are
your...
now on the chat input agent. Obviously, this is a code editor, so the fact that it comes up with an agent input now instead of an actual code editing area is a choice. Let's make a new code file for now. What? Control N.
Files. New file. CTR. New text. New file. CTRL plus Alt plus Windows plus N2 of 21. File submit. Chat input. Agent. Select file type or enter file name. New file. List. Text file. Built-in. File 1. Jupyter notebook. Text file. Built-in. File 1 of 2. Main landmark. Untitled 1 editor has autocomplete multi-line lang.
Okay. I have some thoughts about what just happened. Apparently, VS Code has shifted so far towards AI that Control N, that used to be new file, is now new chat. And if you want to do a new file, you have to do Control Windows Alt N. The f is Microsoft doing? Anyway, yeah, that is apparently how it works now. Okay, so the reason I'm a little rusty on these things is that I don't tend to use VS Code super much these days. I am I'm a command line junkie. I generally hang out in hacker tools. I play with web-based stuff, but I rarely have to code that often anymore these days. I do now because I'm actually working on a number of projects, and I will sometimes use AI and sometimes use my own, wits and fingers, but VS Code hasn't come up in a while, so I'm not super familiar with everything that's changed as of recently, and that is definitely something that caught me by surprise. One thing that we have is a notification in the notification bar.
Chat input, agent, status bar.
Let's
Info,
go
screen
find
reader usage
it.
detected.
It says, screen reader usage detected. Do you want to enable editor accessibility support to optimize the editor for screen reader usage? Generally, from what I understand, that is always going to happen regardless.
Accessible view, info.
But it's a great way for me to show off accessible view. Accessible view is something you trigger with Alt F2, and it tends to accessibilize certain responses, outputs, and other things that are really tricky to accessibilize otherwise. For example, AI responses that you could add into your code, diffs where you have like two files and you need to look at the differences real quick. I believe even some terminal notebook things and terminal things and notebook things both. So if something appears to not be very accessible, Alt F2 is a good hotkey to be aware of. That generally gives you the accessible view of whatever you're currently looking at, and sometimes that's a lot better. They do it that way because generally if you were to be doing it the entire time, it would get very busy on the UI, it would be a performance hit, and it would not just flow well for anyone involved. So it's really better to just grab that when you need it and rely on everything else for the rest. We hear a little clicky sound. You guys cannot hear that. I'm not sure why, because I believe that's the, hey, chat is in progress sound. I will talk about sound cues in a second, but yeah, Alt F2 is the way to get an accessible view. Let's, just in case,
Info, screen reader usage detected.
Press yes on this notification so it gets out of our view.
Button, Untitled 1, there. Visual Studio Code document. Untitled 1, Visual Studio Code document. Application, main landmark.
I am not entirely sure what would happen if you were to not do that. Let me really quickly
Run dialog,
move
type,
these
speech
sound
mode
cues for Visual Studio to a place where they can be heard by the viewers, because this is going to come up in a minute. That's the first thing you're going to want to mess with, I think. Is it even doable, or do I have to change my system audio? Let's see. It looks to be doable. Let's set this to game. Yes, okay. So now we hear a little clicky sound. That usually means progress is happening. I'm not sure what it's trying to do because we haven't asked it any chat things yet, but that's the sound we're apparently listening to now. Let me go into those sound cues real quick because they're kind of important. First, what you want to be familiar with, actually, before we do that, is the command palette. Command palette's Control-Shift-P. You bring it up, Control-Shift-P. And it's gonna bring up every single command you could ever want to press in this editor. Currently, there is 879, and we haven't actually added any extensions yet. So that's quite a few. you can type in here to shorten the list and find what you're looking for. And in that way, you don't have to remember all the hotkeys if you don't want to. You can just sort of find them here.
Speech mode talk.
If we were to type signals, for example,
1 results. Help. List signal sounds 1 of 1.
We get to help list signal sounds. And we're going to want to go there first, because that's where you set up various signals that you get while you use the program. Let's bring up that window here.
35 results. Select the sound to play and configure edit as autocomplete. Select the sound to play and configure blank. 33 selected.
So let's pick one.
Select the sound to play and configure list. Breakpoint online checkbox checked.
This is breakpoint online.
Configure sound button. Untitled 1. Visual Studio Code. Toolbar. Send alt status bar. Untitled 1. Visual toolbar.
Tab away from it, you lose it. Interesting.
Go back. Alt plus untitled toolbar. Send alt send and status bar. Untitled title actions toolbar. Customize main landmark. Chat input. Status bar. Active use main chat input. Status active use
Interesting.
Main
if you
landmark.
have a file open, that key getting stuck on the input switcher does not happen. So that'd be something to be aware of. Let's
35 results.
Up.
Select the sound to play and configure edit as autocomplete. Select the sound to play and configure list. Breakpoint on.
So this has a checkbox.
Not checked. 32 selected. Checked. 33 selected. Configure sound button.
And if we press configure sound.
Main landmark. Suggest list. Level 1 accessibility. Text. Announcement. Text level 1. Accessibility. Text level 1. Announcement. Access sound. Text level 1. Announce format. Text never. Text level format. Signals. Settings. Sound editor as autocomplete. Accessibility. Signals. Format.
It brings up the JSON. So traditionally, Visual Studio Code, all their settings was done through JSON, and they still do that in the background. You do have a GUI now to do this, and it's usually a lot easier to work with that. But sometimes if you want to do a lot of things in a number of different settings all at once, this can be faster.
Accessibility. Signals. Format.
So we're looking at JSON now. We have sound,
never. Announcement, never.
Announcement, never.
Announce sound blank.
And that
accessibility. Signals.
So let me bring up what we were just in.
35 results. Select the sound to play and configure edit as auto. Select the sound to play and configure list. Breakpoint online checkbox checked.
The one thing I am honestly not sure about and that I would have to look up, the checkbox toggles if the sound is on or off. I don't know if that automatically means that if you were to have the checkbox off, if that means it's an announcement. There doesn't seem to be a second checkbox for setting those granularly, so that's what I'm assuming would happen, but I'm not 100% sure on that one. So these are the sounds. You can go through them with the arrow keys, and as you land on one, it plays it.
Chat edit modified file checkbox checked. Speech mode off.
This is chat request sent. This is received. This is user action required. That was clear. That is applied. Request triggered, and so forth, and so forth, and so forth. And you have these for things like, hey, you have an error in your line. Your debugger stopped on a breakpoint. Your file has been saved. Your build succeeded. All sorts of things that would normally be a quick flash of an icon, that is now something we can either have a sound or a announcement for. The only thing I'm not entirely sure about is how exactly you would switch between the announcement, sound, or both. Because if I turn these off, for example, this one, now it's off, but I don't really know what that means in practice. Right now it's, I'm guess not playing the sound, but I don't know if that also means that it will not do the announcement. I'm looking at it. Oh, look, okay.
Speech mode, no previous. Chat edit mod, OK button. Select the sound to play and configure edit as autocomplete. Select toggle all checkboxes, checkbox, status bar. Settings, toolbar. Toggle chat.
Interesting. And when you tab out of it, it disappears.
New chat, clickable button, screen reader optimized.
I do feel this could have been done a little bit more clearly, and I do think what Visual Studio is suffering from a tiny bit is that there's so many things you can do, but very few guidance on what you should do. There is a couple of walkthroughs. I believe there is an accessibility onboarding now, and we will look at that in a second, because I'm pretty sure that exists. But from what I remember, at least when I looked at it about half a year ago, it was pretty much just, here's a bunch of links to accessibility features we do, and we don't really explain to you when you would want them or how you would want to use them, which that could definitely be better. Having said that, though, this is a lot of information that we normally wouldn't have as blind coders. When I was learning how to program, we didn't have things like immediate error detection. Autocomplete often wouldn't work. Finding documentation on code would usually be something you do in a browser. Whereas these days, you can get pretty much all that information in VS Code, should you know how to use it, and should you be comfortable with using it that way. You don't have to do that. let's show that off real quick. If I were to make this
speech mode talk.
I don't know, let's do a JavaScript file, because JavaScript files are cool in the sense that
toolbar, chat input, agent, edit file, no next edit field, main landmark, clickable setting, main landmark, settings, untitled one editor as auto.
Let's go back to the editor. Here we go. This is an untitled file right now. Let's actually just save this. Can we give it
save
a name?
dialog?
Yes, we can. Okay. Let's do blah.js.
Blah.js, Visual Studio Code window. Button,
Okay.
button, trust
So
folder
now
and
we
continue.
get a prompt that says trust folder and continue. That's because, you know, you could technically run code from VS Code
Main landmark, blah.js editor as autocomplete multi. You have not
into this. You have not opened a folder. Good. We should not
settings,
be
blah.js,
in a folder. So I'm just checking that. Control B.
primary sidebar hidden, main landmark,
Dismiss the sidebar. We don't need it. We just want the editor right now. So Control B is good to know. Control B visually hides the sidebar. What is not super apparent is like if you open the Explorer or the
warning,
Git.
the Git repository at C. User's Flory has too many active.
Yeah, I don't care. So it's throwing warnings at me because I essentially just opened a file in this folder and it's trying to be clever, and I'll immediately check for my Git repository for this folder. I have one because I fat fingered at some point and never cleaned it up, but that's not important
warning,
right now. This
the
is
Git
what I
repository
mean
at C.
though by things just coming at you. It throws warnings at you. It throws things at you that you don't necessarily always immediately need to deal with, and it can be a bit much. It's essentially the equivalent of phone notifications.
Chat input, agent, edit files in your works, status bar.
So right now we have a chat thing going, we have this going, we have that going.
Toolbar, blah.js.
And yeah, like I said,
Go
it can just be a
Tool
bit
toggle.
much to keep
Title actions, toolbar.
keep it all safe. But it's
Active use with
fine.
main landmark, blah.js editor as auto.
We're in the editor. Actually, let me see. Can I dismiss the agent?
Chat
thing?
input,
I'm guessing
agent,
it's
edit.
obscuring the view at
Clickable
least
button.
somewhat.
Toolbar add context. See clickable suggested prompt. Toolbar hide secondary.
Yeah, hide secondary.
Blah.js,
There
visual.
we go. No more.
No next edit,
chat.
no previous edit
No
field.
more chat. The
Blank.
chat has been dismissed. We'll look into the chat a little bit later if we get to it. It's not super important for this current discussion. It works. That's really all you need to know. You can type into the chat field. It comes up with responses, and there's a couple of things that Alt F2 will make more accessible in the sense of making, chat responses more accessible, telling agents what lines to accept, which ones to deny. Alt F2 is your friend there, and it should tell you a lot about what to do. Shift Alt F1, I believe,
ScreenReader optimized mode disabled. The editor is not accessible at this ScreenReader optimized mode. Blank.
is the toggle for in general for everything. Shift Alt F2 does nothing. Okay,
Blank.
I thought that was a help for some reason. We'll look into the walkthrough in a second, like I said, to see how they themselves did on their onboarding stuff. But let's first show off like what predictive coding is kind of like. And I don't necessarily mean AI, I just mean autocomplete. If we do CON, right now I have confirm in front of me as like an option. If I press the S,
Suggest list. Console. Variable level 1.
it now says variable console.
Const. Keyword level constant source node. Console. Variable level 1.
And that's a bit of a strange one because that's not a variable in the sense that I would call it a variable, but sure. We can now press tab to insert this completed word. So we typed CONS, Visual Studio thinks we want console. That's correct. Let's do that. There we go.
Blah.js editor
So
as
now
autocomplete multi-line console.
has been added. Visual Studio Code, particularly when you're switching from boxes into like the document proper like that, can be a bit chatty, so keep your control key handy. If we do a dot,
Suggest list. Assert. Method level 1. Error.
a couple things happened there. So right now, this line is in error state. We don't just put a dot and leave it at that. For some people, this is overwhelming. This happens visually too. Like this line is now red underlined or squiggled or something. It's just that I'm guessing it's harder to make sound be subtle in some respects, and this is an immediate, oh my god, I did something wrong. You didn't. Just right now, the current line we're on is in an error state. As soon as you fix it, as soon as you finish this line, it's not going to be in an error state anymore. But that doo-doop sound means error. You're done. You have to fix something. And it will play when you like land on a line. If you just go up and down arrows, you'll see that sound play as you land on one of these errors. And again, that is something feedback-wise we did not have when I was learning how to code. Not even when I was in like college. That really was only a thing we got a couple of years ago. And I've been complaining about the fact we don't have it for honestly a decade or so before it actually started happening. I've been all the way to Microsoft and back, in fact, to complain about it. And it took until essentially COVID before it started becoming an actual thing. So accessibility is a game of waiting long times. At least it used to be. Things are shifting. I'm not going to go into that discussion right now because it can get pretty heated. But yeah, it's an interesting time we're living in right now, in both negative and positive sense. So let's finish this line. We do L for log.
Suggest list. Log. Method level 1.
So it says that log, and log is a method. So we press tab to insert that.
Blog.js editor has autocomplete multi-line console.log.
Console.log. We do a bracket.
Data. Any. The ** console.log ** static method outputs a message to the console. MDN reference. https://developer.mozilla.org/docs/web/api/console/log static. Hint.
So yeah, we have a hint. Can we see an accessible view of that? No. Okay, so a hint is generally a little code hint that indicates what the brackets are expecting you to do. In this case, it says write the message to the console, so we need a message of some kind. A message is a string, so we'll do a quote. And what the screenreader doesn't tell you, but you can see on the Braille display, is that a matching quote and matching right paren has been added for your convenience. You don't have to use those. You can just keep typing, and if you were to type a quote again, it'll overwrite the quote that's already there. But it's a good thing to know that that's already there, technically. You can just start typing your string. And I don't think you can just press, let's try something. Hello, world. The tricky bit with it just doing that for you is if you now press enter,
world. Error.
That happens. Basically what's happened is that the cursor was after hello world, and I can see on my Braille display that there's already a quote and a right paren. So you wouldn't be weird in thinking that it just, if you press enter at that point, because it is already adding things to the right of your cursor anyway, it'll just move you to the next line. And maybe that's a setting, but by default it does not do that. It'll happily just put a new line where your current cursor is. So you've now broken your call. I will remove this indent, remove this enter, and now we're fine. It's no longer
console.log. Hello world. Console.log.
The sound has disappeared, which means the code will run. We will not be running it right now because that's a little outside the scope of what we're doing, but F5 would debug, and Control F5, I believe, would run without debug. I might have that backwards, but that's essentially how you would run a file. And then if the file will actually run and where it will run, that's all a matter of setting the right settings. So let's have a look at settings.
Search settings editor as autocomplete multi-line blank.
Settings editor, it's still very much clear that under the hood, under this list of settings that we just opened up, is an JSON file. Because we're not really setting settings, we're really just having a UI for entering bits of really specific JSON that you could also write manually if you wanted. It would autocomplete things for you neatly, but I think many others would rather just not do that and have and have buttons and checkboxes for a lot of things. It might sometimes be faster to do like a bunch of bulk settings with the JSON method, so just editing it directly, but this is a lot more findable, I feel. Like you can just start tabbing around at this point.
No AI results. Settings switcher tab control. Toolbar. No AI results available at this time. CTRL+I. Checkbox unavailable, not checked.
First thing we see is that there's no AI results.
Settings switcher tab control. User tab selected 1 of 1.
So this is user. You also have project-wide settings sometimes. We don't really have a workspace right now. Workspace is essentially a folder or a set of folders. So everything we're changing now is on the user level, which is basically like every project you open from this point onwards will use those settings.
Backup and sync settings button. Settings navigation landmark. Settings table of contents tree view. Level 2 commonly used. Group 1 of 8. Text editor. Group collapsed 2 of 8. Level common. Text editor. Group expanded. Level 3 cursor. Group 1 of 8.
And the groups of settings are basically just a tree view. You can use left and right to go into groups and up and down to move between them. To actually find the controls in the groups, you just tab into it.
Settings tree view. Level 2 cursor expanded 182 of 189.
And that actually gives you a whole entire list of all the settings. You could use this first review
settings navigation
to find the section you want, and then the cursor neatly follows you to that section in this tree. You could also just not do that and go through the entire tree yourself if you have that much of time. But
text editor section.
That's really how it works.
Status bar.
There's Not much else to it.
Cursor expanded 1 level 3 cursor blinking. Control
Let's
the
say,
cursor.
for example, if we want to change the cursor blinking rate, it says cursor blinking, control the cursor, animation style.
Editor.cursor blinking
If you
combo
now
box.
tap, you'll have a drop down that lets you set that. And currently it's set to editor. It's just set to blink.
Cursor
We
height.
could set
Control
it to
the height of the cursor smooth carry and a cursor blinking. Control the cursor animate. Editor.cursor blinking combo. Editor.cursor blinking list. Smooth not selected 2 of 5. Phase not selected 3 of 5. Expand not selected 4 of 5. Solid not selected 5 of 5.
Solid. Let's leave it at blink.
Default not selected 1 of 5.
One thing to be aware
Main landmark.
when you change these is you cannot just press down arrow on a drop down because that'll move you to the next section. You have to press enter explicitly to open drop downs. Suppose it's probably also the same with other like things that would normally take a down arrow, but this is not the case. This is not necessarily a problem. It's just a little that you have to get used to. Someone yesterday posted a little post on Mastodon where it said that we're, as screenreader users and accessibility requiring assistive technology users in general, are in a bit of a boiling frog situation where things are very, very slowly, progressively getting worse in a lot of like tech things, like Windows, Mac OS, whatever you want to do. And no one's really pushing back. And then he's not wrong. There's a lot of things going wrong right now that have been progressively getting worse for the last, I'd say, even like 5-6 years, maybe even longer than that. And that means, I guess, that we have to be cleverer to stay relevant, as it were. A little bit of a bleak statement there, but yeah, that's unfortunately the reality of it sometimes. Okay, so this is the editor. This is the settings. There's not really much else to do here. We can close this out now.
Blank. Console.log. Blank.
Notebooks maybe a good thing to look at because of the data science angle, but I don't think notebooks will work without Python. Let's try it.
Files up. New file. New window. CTRL. New text file. CTRL plus NN1 of file. Mainland.
Actually, before we do that, let's first look at what VS Code says we should do as screenreader users first. It should be in the help menu, right?
Welcome 1 of 20. Show all command documentation. Editor playground. Open walkthrough. Show release notes R6 of 20. Get started with accessibility features 7 of 20.
Get started with accessibility features.
Main landmark. Overview of how to get up. Speech mode on. Speech mode off.
It says, get started with accessibility features. Learn the tools and shortcuts that make VS Code accessible. Note that some actions are not actionable from within the context of the walkthrough. Inspect this in the accessible view. So I'm not sure what that would do in this case. Use the accessibility help dialog to learn about features. Okay, and then we have a checkbox that says screenreader users can inspect content line by line, character by character in the accessibility view. Completed. Yeah, we just learned about that. And then there's the next one we haven't done yet. It says control the verbosity of aria levels. Okay, how would that work? Can I expand that somehow? Apparently not. Okay, this just checks it. So that's Alt F2. Let's see what that does.
Speech mode description. Learn the tools and shortcuts that use the accessibility help dialog to learn about features. The accessibility help dialog provides information about what to expect from a feature and the command/key bindings to operate them.
Okay, so this I feel is a bit of a cop-out use of the accessibility view. Right now, the problem is you have essentially a line that is both a checkbox to check off that you've done this step, but also a collapsible that shows things collapsed until you expand them. And I don't think they essentially had a quick way to make that work in a good way. So what I think this does, and we're going to see in a second, is that the accessibility view just expands everything and sticks it in a text field. Where I would have liked them to just not make that an accessibility view. You could have easily made this work. Sorry. But yeah, it says the accessibility help dialog it provides information about what to expect from a feature and the commands and key bindings to operate them. With focus in editor, terminal, notebook, chat response, comment, or debug console, the relevant dialog can be opened with the open accessibility help command. Okay. So yeah, it doesn't tell us what that command is. But like I said, you can use that Shift Control P thing to find out. If I tab to the right to the next thing, Okay, so it does. If you
Speech mode
tab
talk.
around and not use browse mode, like I said, you should.
Checkbox for step control the verbosity. Checkbox for step screen reader. Users can inspect content line by line, character by character. Checkbox for step control the verbosity of ARIA labels. Not completed control the verbosity of ARIA labels button. Collect. Checkbox for step unlock productivity with checkbox.
Yeah, so these are all one
Inspect
particular...
this collapsed. Inspect this in the accessible view. Alt plus F2. Use the accessibility checkbox for step. Use the accessibility help dialog to learn about feature. Open accessibility help button. Inspect this in the accessible view. Alt plus F2. Screen reader. Users can inspect content line by line, character by character. Checkbox for step control the verbosity of ARIA labels. Not
Yeah, I
completed
think it'll
control.
go bring up the first
Accessible
one
view
again.
line. The accessibility help dialog provides
Yeah,
application.
so I'd need to
Go
collapse
over
this
editor actions
somehow.
toolbar. Close. Editor
Let's
over when
try it.
checked. Go back button. When checked, this page will be shown on startup. Checkbox check go list. Checkbox for step.
Well, we got... Oh,
Open
there it is.
checkbox for step. Use the inspect this in the accessible view. Alt plus F2. Use the accessibility help. Checkbox inspect this in the accessible view. Alt plus F2. Use the accessibility help dialog to learn about features button expanded. Checkbox open accessibility help button. Checkbox for step screen reader. Users can inspect content line by line, character by character. Checkbox for step control the verbosity of ARIA. Checkbox for step screen reader. No object screen reader. Users can inspect content line by line, character by character in the pane. Left click. Inspect this in the accessible view. Alt plus F2. Screen reader. Users can inspect content line by line, character by character in the accessible view. Expanded. The accessible view is available for the terminal, hovers, notifications, comments, notebook output, chat responses, inline completions, and debug console output.
Yeah, so I just cheated and used the mouse to get that to expand. This is bad. You would be able... You would not... I don't know how you would do this in the keyboard, honestly. I tried. Pressing enter or space just checks the box instead of opening the thing. So I would say that the accessibility walkthrough has a pretty bad accessibility regression in it. Fix that, guys. Come on. This is amateur hour here.
Checkbox for step screen reader. Users can inspect content line by open accessible view button. Checkbox for step control. Checkbox control the verbosity of ARIA label. Click ancestor. Inspect this in the accessible view. Alt button collapse. Checkbox button collapsed. Heading level 3 unlock productivity with the command palette. Get started with accessibility features. Heading level 2.
Yeah, so...
List with inspect this in the accessible. Inspect this in button collapse. Checkbox for step unlock productivity with the command palette. Inspect this in the accessible view. Alt plus F2. Control the verbosity of ARIA labels. Button collapse. Checkbox.
Yeah,
button expand. Accessible title. Get started with accessibility features.
Yeah, so no, I would say the walkthrough is honestly pretty shit. That's
walkthrough. Set up VS Code.
That's not good, guys. Come on.
List. Blog.main landmark.
I'm used to better from this. I'll have to file an issue about how bad this is currently. Unless there's already an issue open for it. No matter. I'll be the walkthrough. Basically, the next thing it was going to show us was that command palette. We already did that. So Control-Shift-P is your way into not having to remember all the hotkeys. I am curious if we can find more about that ARIA verbosity. So the fact that you call it ARIA verbosity already bothers me, given that you need to be a web developer to know what ARIA even is. ARIA is basically a way for screen readers to provide more information about elements to screen reader users, be it like roles, names, states, sometimes auto like read content. I don't love the name ARIA verbosity for that, but let's see if we can find it.
Speech mode talk.
If we just look for the word
type the name of a
verbosity,
type the name of a command to run. Edit as autocomplete greater verbosity. Y. Type the name of a command to run. List. No matching commands not selected.
No matching found. Okay, so that doesn't work. That's what if we look for ARIA?
Type the name.
ARIA.
1 results. Blog.js. Visual Studio. Type the name of a command to run. Edit as autocomplete.
Okay, so I quite literally do not know how you would change those verbosity levels. I'm guessing they're in settings. Let's super quickly look into settings and check there. ARIA.
41 settings found. Search settings. 41 settings found.
Okay, so here we have a bunch of settings.
ARIA. Toolbar. Settings switcher tab control. Use.
When you type into the settings switchers, the settings toolbar, it'll filter the settings that you have access to in that one big tree view. Let's have a look at that tree view now.
Settings tree view. Level 1 editor allow variable fonts. Control editor allow variable fonts in accessibility mode. Controls with speech
so
mode
now
off.
we also have the word variable be there because that's, ARIA is part of variations and variable. And the thing about this is that code anything does a lot with variables. So yeah, this is not the best way. Maybe if we look for verbosity real quick, that'll give us fewer options. Let's see.
Speech mode.
Verbosity.
18 settings found.
That's
Search
only
settings.
18.
18
That's
settings.
a lot less. Okay, let's check
settings
out.
navigation land. 18 settings found. Level 2 feature. 18 settings. 18 settings preview. Level 1 accessibility verbosity comments. Provide information about actions that can be taken. Speech mode off.
So accessibility verbosity comments. Provide information about actions that can be taken in the comments widget or in a file which contains comments. And then you have a bunch of things for stuff like this. Verbosity for debug, for the diff editor, for empty editors, for hovers, for inline chat. you would want to turn these off when you already know how it works, so you just get less speech thrown at you. That's really all this does, it looks like. There's even key binding. Okay, provide information about how to change the key binding in the key bindings editor. So things of this nature, a lot of hints. This is really hard to do, honestly, right? Provide the right amount of information for every user. So that they offer this is really good. I'm very glad that they have decided to go the config route for this, because a lot of the time developers don't. They'll just put something in and people are just going to have to like it. And I think screenReader based configuration is something that's really underused, and I'm very happy to see that they've used it here. I'm not so happy about how it's being advertised and how you would be getting to it, because that walkthrough would have probably told us exactly what to expect, but it wasn't really working, so that was not great. Okay, now let's go to notebooks. Because notebooks obviously are a bit of a thing when you are a data scientist. We're honestly almost done. Like I said, I wanted to do this short, keep this short, and I think I will be able to manage that. We're almost done, because really this is where it's all going to go. Everything else sort of builds on top of what we just covered. The command palette, the screen reader verbosity, and the sound signal settings. Once you have that set up, you're good to go configuration-wise. Like, everything else is just learning the editor and learning whatever you're trying to do in the editor. Notebooks are a bit of an interesting story, because notebooks are the same as Jupyter notebooks. We covered those on stream a while ago. And traditionally, they're not super accessible. They're not great. In VS Code, they are purportedly better. And obviously, we couldn't go through every window that we could ever, go through in this thing. That would take hours. But you have that accessibility help command, which will tell you what keys to press. Definitely use that. If you go to the
speech mode top, type the name.
Command palette, do accessibility help. Oh, let's type that properly. Don't remove the greater than sign.
987
accessibility help.
Open accessibility help. Alt plus F1.
It's Alt F1. So Alt F1
main landmark
will bring up the accessibility context sensitive help for whatever you're doing. We'll look at the one for notebooks next. If notebooks currently open, if they don't, then that's tricky. The reason I keep saying that, because it's, Visual Studio Code is an editor first and foremost. I guess it's an AI input now, but it's an editor first and foremost, and you can enrich it with extensions. The cool thing about VS Code in that sense is that extensions usually, not always, but usually use a lot of the components that Visual Studio Code also uses. And because those components tend to be accessible, so are usually most extensions, at least in a basic sense. This was definitely not always the case. If you look at the add-ins for Visual Studio Community, for example, those are often anyone's bet. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're terrible. And yeah, the needle usually landed on terrible. Honestly, if you look at like ReSharper from those days, that was a Visual Studio Community thing. It was terrible. It was like JetBrains, so that's not helping, but it was pretty bad. Let's look at the notebook.
Files up. New Windows. New file. See new text file. CT. New window with open file. Open folder. Open workspace from files. Main landmark. Blog.js editor as auto.
Let's see.
Type.
Notebook. Create new Jupyter notebook. Let's try it.
Blog.js. Visual Studio Code document.
Do you want to install the recommended Python extension from Microsoft for the Python language? Let's do that.
Toolbar.
Real quick.
More app status bar. Active view switcher tab. Notebook use alt plus status bar. Active views with notebook status bar.
Those notifications show up in your status bar. If those come up and you want to get rid of them, you want to act on them. You go to the status bar with F6.
Info.
Tab onto the notification. Easiest way at that point is get the accessible view with Alt F2.
Accessible view. Explore actions such as disabling this hint. Shift plus tab. Editor multi.
And now you can just use this. It dumps you into browse mode by itself, and it's fine in this case. You can use F to go to the next form field.
Info.
Which
Do you
in
want
this
to install
case
the recommended
is install, which we actually want to do. So let's press that.
Untitled 1.ibn. Visual Studio Code document. Clickable source. Git.
There is also a thing for Git. Maybe let's get rid of
OK button.
that as
Warning.
well.
The Git repository at C. Accessible view. Explore actions. Warning. The notification center list.
Oh.
Notebook use alt plus F1 for accessibility help list. Code cell 1 of 1 level 1.
Okay, so let's have a look at the accessibility help and see what that is like. Because right now we are in a code cell, and let's see what it tells us to do. It says the notebook view is a collection of code and markdown cells.
Speech mode off.
Code cells can be executed and will produce output directly below the cell. The edit cell command, enter, will focus on the cell input. So in general, you don't edit cells. Like, that's the big difference between Jupyter. Jupyter assumes you want to edit right away, and therefore when you use the arrow keys, you're immediately in an edit field. VS Code does it the other way around. You basically get a list of cells, and you have to press enter to edit the one you want. That is generally faster, but it is a bit of a personal preference. The quit edit command, escape, will set focus on the cell container. So that'll get you back where you were in the list of cells. The default escape key may need to be pressed twice first. Exit the virtual cursor if active. That's a typo. Okay, someone did not proofread this, unfortunately. The focus output command, Control-Shift down arrow, will set focus in the cell's output. Now, this is really helpful because data science, obviously, you want to look at the results a lot. Control-Shift down lets you look at that in a sort of its own little thing. And what Jupyter often struggles with is when you try to go to like an output of a cell, if you happen to go past the bottom line of the output, you enter the new cell, you have to go back. It's very annoying. So you have to do that deliberately here. Control-Shift down, and I believe Control-Shift up will bring you back to the actual code editor. If you want to go to the next cell editor, which could be any thing, any type of cell, code or markdown, Control page down will set focus in the next cell's editor. The focus previous cell editor, obviously Control page up, does the same thing in reverse. The up and down arrows will also move focus between cells while focused on the outer cell container. So that's developer speak for if you're not in an editor and you hit escape, you're in that list where it says cell 1, cell 2, cell 3. That is the outer cell container. Though that's what they call that apparently. The execute cell command is not assigned usually. Executes the cell that currently has focus. Now, if you work with notebooks a lot, this is something you're going to want to assign because you're going to do that every single time. I think you can also tab to it or just right click and do it that way. But obviously executing a cell is something you're going to do all the time. So you probably want to like assign a key thing to like a keystroke to that. You can Control-Shift enter and Control enter, so those are already mapped. You can't use those for that because they do. Above Control-Shift enter is insert cell above where you currently are, and Control enter enters one below where you currently are. This is sometimes important if you want to make sure that your cells end up in the right places. But they will create new code cells. Be aware of that. They are by default code cells. And you can use a command to change it, setting it to markdown mode instead. That doesn't seem to be assigned at first, though. And Alt F6 apparently turns verbosity for this feature off. Now, if you're done with the accessibility help, you can just hit escape. One thing it does let you do, which is kind of cool, it says configure key bindings for commands that lack them, is Alt-K. You can trigger that from the accessibility dialog. So if you were to, for example, want to set a thing for execute, you could do that straight from here. And if you want to change them, it's apparently Alt-A. That's a bit of an interesting mnemonic. But yeah, Alt-A is assign things to things that already have an assignment. And Alt-K is assign something that doesn't have anything yet. So we're now in a cell. Let's escape out. Oh. And now we're in code cell 1. If I want to make a new one, we can do Control Enter. And now we have 2 code cells. Control Enter also puts you in the cell. So if you right click this, can you run this? There's a bunch of different things. You can cut a cell, copy a cell, paste a cell. You can do all sorts of interesting things. With inserts, you can set it to markdown, which apparently is M. You can just press M and it does that. You can join cells together. So there's a lot of things you can do from the context menu. And then if you want to have commands, the cool thing about VS Code is that practically everything is something you can either connect to a key binding or a command. And having said all that, that's pretty much all there is to it, really. Like, you could do so much more with this. You could add Git, you could add GitHub, you could add OpenAI, you could talk to AI agents and have them do things. But that is all really, like, sort of outside of the scope of this discussion because it really depends on what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. At this point, once you've done all these things, you're pretty much on your own. You have to sort of work out how you like to work best, and that is different for everyone. I like having the predictive coding on the autocomplete that we saw earlier. Some people turn that off altogether because they find it distracting. Fair enough. If that's how you want to work, do that. There is very many settings, very many keyboard shortcuts you can assign or are already assigned. And then there is a huge amount of extensions you can add to VS Code to turn it into a note keeper, or a Spotify controller, or a Discord client, or a Slack thing. Because it is a Chrome thing, because it is essentially just an online web app, you could pretty much do whatever you like with the editor, and that's its strength, but also its weakness in the sense that it's going to really be overwhelming if you don't know what you're doing. So from this point onwards, after you've said all the verbosities you like, all the sounds you like, go play. That's really the best thing I can say. There is ways you can like start with a completely blank profile. You can delete your settings and restart if you don't like something you've changed. You can't really break it, and I think VS Code is a fantastic sort of playground to sort of learn that whole just press buttons and see what happens thing. Go nuts. Go try things. See if they work. Type things into the Control-Shift-P. F1 is a synonym for that. For example, let's try that again. If you have trouble pressing multiple keys at once, F1 might be easier to press. So that is the same thing as Control-Shift-P. It's not going to bring up the help. It's going to bring up the command palette so you can type in there. And yeah, the more extensions you install, the more commands you're going to have access to. So even if a UI for an extension is not accessible, there may very well be actions it can trigger on your current file, your current context, that are accessible and that are useful. So yeah, go forth and experiment is really the best advice I can give. At this point, that's really all you need to do. Now, in particularly to, how am I going to pronounce your name? Peppo. To Peppo. I'm going to call you Peppo because I don't want to call you to what like the letters in your name would suggest I should call you. I'm going to call you Peppo. Peppo, if this was not clear enough, like if you have any questions, please comment on the video. Feel free to. If this is helpful for you or for anybody else, please share the video around. I'm going to, it's not going to be in the live tab because I'm going to delete the live tab and then re-upload as a regular video. Because for one, I think this is a good thing for it. And also for another, I want that bit in the beginning gone. So it's going to be up on the regular video tab later today. I'm going to have to edit it and then change it and upload it back up. It's going to be a bit of a process. But give me a few hours to get that done. Obviously, if you're watching this from that tab, then that's already happened. So hello from the future, from the past, I guess. Yeah, any questions, please comment. I can elucidate in the comment section or do a follow-up or something. But this is really, I feel, all you're going to need to do to get started, at least. And specifically for data science, notebooks are going to be your best bet. Python extension is going to be your best bet. But on the whole, there's not that much more that really changes for you as opposed to like a regular coder. Because really what you're working with is the contents within the cells, within the Jupyter notebooks, Python notebooks, and VS Code notebooks. I'm pretty sure you can just open any Jupyter notebook you've offlined into VS Code and have the accessibility features work. So from that point onwards, it's really the data that's in those cells. And that's not a VS Code thing. That's just the cells. Like, is there histograms with like tables that are there? Visual Studio can't really help you. You have to make sure that that's there yourself. And pandas and NumPy and all sorts of other like libs will let you do that pretty quickly. So that's really the start of anyone's VS Code journey. And I wish you luck on it. I hope it goes well. And like I said, if you get stuck, please give me a shout. I'll see if I can help. With that, have a fantastic day. Have a fantastic night. If it's your birthday, happy birthday.